Nuclear Throne is a top-down shoot-'em-up and roguelike developed by an independent Dutch studio by the name of Lambeer. The development team consisted of 2 people working with Game Maker Studio. Now, I won't pretend I know anything about game engines or the capabilities, but the fact that the development team consisted of 2 people from start to finish makes this game all the more amazing. For those that don't know, roguelike games get their name from their conceptual similarities to the game Rogue, developed around the year 1980. These similarities include procedural generation, dungeon crawling, and permanent death. In those aspects, Nuclear Throne is very close to its roots. The appeal of roguelike games, at least to me, has always been the replayability. You die very easily in these games, so the weight of each decision is massive. More traditionally, games in this vein were turn-based, allowing the player to carefully think out each decision and encounter. Nuclear Throne, on the other hand, is much more akin to a more modern take on the genre, sharing many similarities with a game like The Binding of Isaac. There are multiple characters to choose from, each bringing their own unique approach to the game, all having differing stats and abilities. Another likeness is in the progression and character upgrade systems. While the way each game makes these upgrades available differs, the concept is essentially the same. The player is given the opportunity to collect upgrades that permanently changes the character for the rest of the playthrough. When you first play a game like this, you are practically guaranteed to get instantaneously and unapologetically shit on. While the quick deaths can be frustrating at times, especially in a game where it's permanent, it is this system that makes the game so fulfilling. With each death, you learn something new about the game, and if you don't, it encourages you to try another approach to overcome the challenge. Overcoming these obstacles after being crushed by them over and over again leads to a sense of progression very unique to this kind of game. Through trial and error, you work within the limitations of the tools given you to adapt and hone your skills enough to fly through an earlier segment of the game you couldn't walk 2 feet in previously. Where Nuclear Throne shines is the beauty in its simplicity. You choose a character, grab some weapons and upgrades, and try to get as far as you can without dying. The random nature of the game's procedural generation ensures each run-through is unique. The enemy placement, weapons available, and the upgrades you can attain differ every time you go into the game. The game features well over 50 different enemies, 9 bosses, about 100 weapons, 14 playable characters, and around 50 mutations to choose from. As you progress, the enemies become harder, but the weapons and mutations available to the player get stronger as you make your way towards the throne. All the components of this game were created and implemented in a diverse and meaningful way. There are stationary enemies that shoot many slow-moving projectiles, mobile enemies that try to get an angle on you, enemies that spawn other enemies, and my point is, they put a lot of thought into each enemy, making each of them their own challenge that the player must learn to deal with in their own way. The different areas of the game all stand out with area-exclusive enemies and visual themes, all fresh and setting them apart from one another. Not only did the developers manage to include such a vast and well-polished pool of enemies and weapons, but they even went out of their way to include secret areas, characters, and even a new Game Plus feature. With its plethora of content and replayable nature, Nuclear Throne is a great game to pass 5 minutes with or play for as long as your temper will allow. Through its beautifully polished and simple design, Nuclear Throne is very close to being an arcade masterpiece.
Bust the rhyme now, MOP.